There's a particular kind of guilt that doesn't announce itself right away. It doesn't show up the day it happens. It waits, sometimes months, until you're standing in your own kitchen doing something completely ordinary, and it taps you on the shoulder and asks you to explain why, on the worst day of your sister's life, some small, shameful part of you is also thinking about your own birthday. I'm 39 years old. I turned 39 in an oncology waiting room in North Platte, Nebraska, 40 minutes from the farm where my sister and I grew up, sitting in a plastic chair that had clearly outlived several decades of bad news delivered to people just like us. Angela's my older sister. 3 years apart, close enough growing up that people used to mistake us for twins on the school bus. She'd had back pain for a couple months before that day. Nothing either of us thought much of. The kind of ache you blame on a bad mattress or too many hours on your feet teaching second grade. The imaging results came back that morning. My birthday. Stage 4, they told us, already spread beyond where it started. And the first thing my sister said, staring at a doctor 20 years younger than her, wasn't about herself at all. It was, "I'm sorry, Kev. I ruined your birthday." The call came in at 8:40 that morning, while I was still standing in my kitchen in a pair of sweatpants, coffee going lukewarm, half watching my phone light up with birthday texts from cousins I hadn't talked to since Christmas. "Hey," Angela said, and I could tell right away something was off in her voice, some flatness she was working hard to keep steady. "Any chance you could drive me into North Platte today? Car's making that noise again, and I've got the imaging follow-up at 11. Didn't want to ask Mom and Dad. You know how Dad gets before he's even got the full picture." I remember almost laughing, telling her happy birthday to me, very funny timing, and she laughed too, a little too quick, the kind of laugh that's doing more work than it should have to. I told her I'd swing by in 20 minutes. I didn't think much of it beyond mild annoyance at losing part of my day off. My wife Sarah had a small dinner planned, nothing fancy, just the two of us and a cake. I figured I'd drop Angela at her appointment, grab lunch, be back home well before dark. I had no idea, pulling out of my driveway that morning, that I was about to spend my birthday learning what the rest of my sister's life was going to look like. Angela was quiet on the drive in, which wasn't like her. She's the talker in the family, always has been, filling silences other people don't even notice are there. That morning she just watched the fields go by, flat and brown. That particular stretch of highway that runs so straight you can watch a storm build for 20 miles before it reaches you. I asked her, somewhere around the halfway mark, if she was nervous. She shrugged it off. "Probably nothing. Doctors just being thorough. You know how they are." I believed her, mostly because I wanted to. There's a specific kind of denial that runs in families. We'd both watched our grandfather wave off chest pain for 2 years before anybody made him see somebody, and some part of me, without meaning to, had inherited that same instinct to assume the worst wasn't actually going to be the worst. "You'll be back to complaining about your students by Monday," I told her, trying for light. She smiled at that, real enough, and let it go. I didn't push. I didn't ask the harder questions sitting underneath the easy ones. I just drove, radio low, both of us pretending this was any ordinary Tuesday, right up until the moment we were called back, and it very clearly wasn't. The room was small, the kind with a poster of the digestive system on the wall that neither of us had ever had reason to study before. Angela sat on the exam table, paper crinkling under her, and I took the chair by the door, close enough to reach her if she needed me to. The doctor didn't waste time getting to it, which I've since come to be grateful for, even though in the moment it felt like the floor dropping out from under both of us at once. Stage 4, pancreatic, already in the liver. He used the word aggressive more than once and treatment more than cure, a distinction I understood immediately even though nobody said it outright. Angela didn't cry right away. She just went very still, staring at a spot on the floor, and then she looked over at me. Not at the doctor, at me, and said the thing that stayed lodged in my chest ever since. "I'm sorry, Kev. I ruined your birthday." I didn't say anything smart. I didn't tell her it didn't matter, or that birthdays were nothing compared to this, even though both of those things were true. I just got up, crossed the small room, and took her hand in both of mine, the way I used to when we were kids and she'd wake up scared during a thunderstorm. I held on. That was the whole response I had in me. Mom and Dad took it the way you'd expect people who've spent 40 years on the same piece of land to take news like that. Quiet, practical, already asking about treatment logistics before either of them had let themselves actually feel it. Dad drove out to Angela's place that evening and just started fixing things around her house without being asked. A leaky faucet, a fence post that had been leaning for a year. Mom cooked enough food to feed a family twice our size and kept finding reasons to stay another hour. Nobody in my family's ever been good at sitting still with grief. We fix things. We show up with casseroles. It's its own language, even if it's not the one you'd choose if you had the words for the real one. I drove Angela to 2 more appointments that first week. The oncology consult, the port placement for chemo, falling into the same rhythm we'd started that first morning without either of us discussing it out loud. It just became mine to do. Sarah picked up the slack at home without complaint, covering things I couldn't, understanding without me explaining that this was just where I needed to be for a while. I didn't think about my birthday again that whole week, or so I told myself. Treatment started 3 weeks later, a chemo regimen aimed less at curing anything than at buying time, though nobody used those exact words with Angela, and she didn't ask them to. She handled it the way she's handled everything since we were kids, with a kind of dry humor that made the rest of us feel like maybe we were allowed to breathe a little. "At least I'll finally lose the weight I've been meaning to," she told me once in the infusion chair, deadpan enough that it took me a second to realize she meant it as a joke and not something crueler. I started driving her to every appointment I could manage, trading shifts at the co-op, using vacation days I'd been saving for nothing in particular. Some weeks it was 3 trips into North Platte and back, 90 minutes round trip each time, radio low, both of us talking about nothing important because the important things were too big to say out loud most days. I didn't tell anyone, not Sarah, not my parents, about the small, specific ache that showed up sometimes when I'd glance at a calendar and see my birthday circled from months back. A day I now associated less with turning a year older, and more with the exact moment my sister's life changed. I didn't think I was allowed to feel that. It seemed selfish next to what she was actually living through. The guilt caught up with me about 4 months in on an ordinary Thursday, driving Angela home from a treatment that had left her more wiped out than usual. She'd fallen half asleep against the window, and I was just sitting with my own thoughts at a red light in town when it hit me all at once. Sharp, specific, uninvited. I resented my birthday now. Some part of me, small and ashamed, had quietly started dreading its return, already knowing it would always carry this now, permanently rewired into the day. Everything changed. And right behind that thought came the shame of having it at all, given what she was actually losing. I must have made some sound, some small catch in my breathing, because Angela stirred and looked over at me, more awake than I'd realized. "You're doing the thing," she said, voice rough from the drugs but clear enough. "The thing where you think something and then hate yourself for thinking it." I didn't deny it. I couldn't. Not to her. Not after everything. "Kev." She reached over, weak grip but deliberate, and put her hand over mine on the gear shift. "It's allowed to still be your birthday too. I didn't lose the right to celebrate you just because I got sick on the same day. Don't take that away from both of us." I had to pull over for a second. 19 years of being her little brother, and she still knew exactly what I needed to hear before I'd found the words to ask for it. I think, before that day, I believed grief and guilt were supposed to travel together. That feeling anything for myself while Angela was sick made me smaller somehow, less worthy of standing beside her. It took her, from the passenger seat of my own truck, half drugged and exhausted, to correct that math for me. Compassion doesn't run out just because somebody needs more of it than you do. I didn't have to choose between grieving my sister's diagnosis and still being allowed to feel like myself on a random Tuesday in October. She'd given me permission I hadn't known I needed in about 15 words without making either of us say anything harder than that. If you're carrying guilt right now over something you didn't cause and can't fix, over still needing things for yourself while somebody you love is struggling, I hope you hear this the way I finally did. Needing something doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. And the people who love you most usually already know that, even before you're ready to believe it yourself. Angela's still in treatment now, 9 months in, the kind of chemo that isn't chasing a cure so much as buying more good days than the disease would give her on its own. She's tired most of the time. She still makes jokes in the infusion chair that make the nurses laugh despite themselves. I still drive her to most appointments, It's just part of my week now, the way farm chores were part of ours growing up. Not something I resent, not something I announce, just something that's mine to carry because I'm the one who's able to. Sarah and I threw a small get-together for Angela's birthday last month. Low-key, just family, cake she barely finished a slice of. Nobody mentioned the diagnosis. We just let her be 42 for an evening. Nothing more complicated than that. I don't dread my birthday anymore, though I won't pretend it doesn't still carry weight when the date rolls around. I've just stopped needing it to be simple. Some days can hold two true things at once: grief for what's coming, and gratitude for another year of a brother having a sister worth driving 40 minutes for, twice a week, for as long as it takes. My birthday came around again a few weeks ago. Angela had a good day, one of the better ones lately, and insisted on coming over for dinner instead of the other way around, waving off my protest with the same stubbornness she's had since we were kids, fighting over who got the front seat. She brought a cake herself, store-bought, a little lopsided, candles jammed in wherever they'd fit. Before I blew them out, she raised her water glass. She can't handle much else these days, and said loud enough for the whole table to hear, "To Kevin, whose birthday is allowed to just be a birthday this year." Everybody laughed. The good kind, the kind that doesn't need explaining to people who weren't there for the year before. I blew out the candles. Thought for just a second about that plastic chair in North Platte. Her hand in mine. The apology I never should have let her carry alone in the first place. Then I looked back up at my sister. Still here, still making jokes, still exactly who she's always been to me. I didn't feel guilty this year, I just felt lucky. Turns out that was allowed the whole time.